July, we, together with some 23 young friends from Sekmol and Hayal, are on a very special expedition to the Khardungla Pass, one of the tallest in the world, to collect a piece of ice that will be taken to Dharamsala in the next 3 days, roughly 72 hours, using bicycles, public transport, and electric vehicles. So after climbing Khardungla Pass with bicycles, our team is now climbing up to the glacier. It's rather treacherous. You may see it easy, but we are walking on waist deep ice. Where it is hard, we will be able to walk over, but sometimes you can see what happens. So this is what it entails to get to the glacier. The glaciers of Khardungla are melting very fast. I remember personally when I was younger, some 25 years ago, I would see glaciers coming down to the road. At some point there was a metal bridge with no river underneath, just a glacier. To cover the glacier, there was a metal bridge. Today it's all gravel and stones and no sign of glacier, and of course no sign of the bridge even, because an avalanche took it away. So now these glaciers that used to touch the highway have moved up, or receded rather, higher and higher by a few 100 meters sometimes. So that's the pace at which these glaciers are melting. So here finally we are at the snout of the glacier. My friends are chipping at the ice to get this chunk to be taken to Dharamsala. But working here, even walking here, is rather difficult, as we are at roughly 5,300 plus meters above sea level, and therefore air is rarer, and therefore oxygen also is rarer, roughly at 55 to 7% of that at sea level. So we have to struggle against that at this altitude. Yay! Finally, to make sure that the ice doesn't melt in the next 3 days, 72 hours till it reaches Dharamsala through the hot plains of India with plus 45 degrees, we are using as insulation something very natural, something very local, Ladakhi, cashmere fiber, pashmina, the best in fabric around the world, in support of Ladakhi Pashmina growers in Changtang, and to support the Changtang Pashmina Growers Cooperative, we are promoting this insulation rather than synthetic ones like rock wool or glass wool. This is zero emission, carbon neutral, produced with love by herders in Changtang region of Ladakh. So now once the ice is collected and safely packed in the drum, Thupstan, our teammate, is the team leader to carry it as a courier of ice from Khardungla to Dharamsala. So we are starting with electric bicycles this time as another clean mode of transport. So Thupstan is going on his electric bicycle.
After traversing the Khardungla slopes on electric bicycles, the ice drum finally reaches the town of Leh, where it is mounted on a public transport, and our team takes it through the mountains of Ladakh and then entering Kashmir. Finally reached the Patni Top Hills near Jammu, where they parked for the night, keeping the ice cool by evaporative cooling by wrapping a wet towel around the ice drum. The next day, the ice drum is mounted on electric cars. This time it's a Hyundai Kona, which was generously supported by the company, and then it is brought down the slopes of the Patni Hills to Jammu city, where a second ice drum for backup just in case on the treacherous roads from Ladakh to Jammu anything happens. This backup ice drum came by air from Leh to Jammu, and this ice drum was carried by me on another electric car provided pro bono by Tata Motors, the Nexon.
Here we are securely seated the holy ice from the glaciers of Khardungla, and we are ready to go to Pathankot and then Dharamsala.
The two cars then traveled together from Jammu to Pathankot and through the plains of Punjab, the heat of roughly 40 plus degrees, and then slowly entered the hills of Himachal Pradesh, finally arriving at Dharamsala McLeodganj on the evening of 21st.
See the lake. Thank you. Very happy that we are here, arrived safely with the ice from the Khardungla glacier to be presented to His Holiness. Your Holiness Chaksal, today, Your Holiness, on this Earth Day, we have brought a very special sacred piece of ice from the Khardungla glacier to highlight the state of Khardungla glacier in Ladakh. This Your Holiness, our team from Ladakh brought this to you to highlight the urgency of climate change in the Tibetan plateau from Ladakh to Lhasa to Tawang. And we believe that this is more than a piece of ice. It's a message, Your Holiness. Up in the high Himalayas, our glaciers are melting fast, leaving behind droughts and flash floods. The message on this Earth Day we want to convey to the world is to please live simply,
so that we in the mountains may simply live.
I really appreciate more and more people now really showing a sense of concern of world environment. So within my lifetime, in Lhasa area, annually winter on this mountain surrounding Lhasa, more snow. Then, year by year, less and less.
I consider it very important that spiritual leaders like His Holiness and all the religious spiritual leaders of the world must consider it a responsibility of theirs to promote climate action, to promote climate-friendly lifestyles, because all religions worth the name talk of non-violence, ahimsa, peace. But we often forget that violence today is not committed by daggers and guns so much. It is much more committed by our lifestyles, with our cars, with our 40 pairs of shirts and shoes. So the current lifestyle is actually very, very violent, and I hope our religious leaders of the world take notice of that and include it in their discourse. And therefore, I have great hope from leaders like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all leaders of every religion, because it cannot be left to just scientists in their laboratories and ministers in their cabinets. It has to be a people's discourse, and that can be done through leaders like His Holiness.
With His Holiness's blessings and wisdom began the International Conference Dialogue for Our Future on Earth Day 2022. Many activists and experts from around the world gathered on ground in Dharamsala and many more online from different parts of the world. And over the 3 days, they discussed the need for climate action and the urgency of it around the world, and particularly on the Tibetan Plateau, the third pole of the world. And finally, as we left for our homes, we felt blessed and charged with energy on one hand, and yet on the other hand, felt the urgency of time slipping away as the ice from Khardungla sat there in Dharamsala, melting, drip, 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 like a ticking clock of climate change.